the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
This is Business Rockstars from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Jeannie Ehrman, and our guest is Erica Duignan. She is the managing partner of 1,000 Angels. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So let's just talk about 1,000 Angels. What is it you guys do?
So 1,000 Angels is a membership network that helps accredited investors, which are just high net worth individuals, make investments in early stage private companies, so startups.
And people have a hard time getting access to these seed investments, true? Why is that?
Absolutely. Well, it takes a lot of energy and time and experience in order to properly source and evaluate these investments. And most people have full-time jobs, and really getting involved in early stage private equity as an investor can be a full-time job. So we do that for our members. We take all of the work out of sourcing, screening, evaluating, negotiating with the companies, and then making sure that they're successful post-investment. And we just allow them to start building a portfolio with no fees.
And how much money does a person have to have for an initial investment?
So the investment size varies. The investment minimums are typically as low as $10,000, but can be as high as $25,000. We let the founders on our platform set their own investment minimum. So in this world, really everything is negotiable as well. So if you're like a really amazing person who's bringing a lot to the table, a founder may lower the investment minimum because they'd really love to have you involved as an investor. But generally, it's $10,000 to $25,000, and 1,000 Angels membership is really ideal for somebody who's looking to invest around $100,000 per year.
It seems like there's a lot of competition for investment dollars. Mm-hmm. How would you say you differentiate yourself amongst all the other options there are out there for investors?
Right. Well, we stand out with a few key important characteristics. Number one, we're only for accredited investors. So this isn't, a product for sort of the traditional crowdfunding group. This is only for high net worth individuals who are looking to get access to private deals. So the types of opportunities you'll see on 1,000 Angels are generally VC-led co-investments that you would never see on traditional equity crowdfunding platforms. And they come with those very favorable terms to match. Secondly, we actually put a lot of work into developing very close relationships with the founders that come onto our platform. So it's not, somebody who just submitted an application and we thought it looked good and we allow them to go on there, right? Like, we know our founders very, very well, and we screen them very closely, and we know that this is going to be a long-term relationship once they come into the 1,000 Angels portfolio and the 1,000 Angels family. So that's really important. And then the third thing is that we don't charge any fees to the founders that come onto our platform. If you're investing in a traditional equity crowdfunding deal, generally the crowdfunding platform is taking anywhere from 7.5% to 10% or more
Right.
of the money raised in fees, which creates really some adverse selection problems, because obviously those companies, are pretty desperate for capital, that they're willing to give up almost 10% of the raise in fees. So the types of companies that we're working with are actually typically oversubscribed, hard to get into deals, where we've been able to get allocations for our members because they really appreciate the relationship and the benefits of being part of our portfolio.
Before 1,000 Angels, you were in investment banking, right?
Absolutely. So I started my career in the public markets with a very well-known firm called Salomon Smith Barney.
Who are they? What?
Salomon Brothers, from Liar's Poker's days. But yeah, so I started off on the public market side, doing traditional investment banking, asset management, and actually spent a few years as a mortgage-backed securities trader. But what I found was that, working with all of these sort of esoteric, assets, right, and securities, you're very far away from the actual company and really helping, the management team, or helping the company grow, or realizing a vision. In 2006, I got involved as an early stage investor as the original executive director of what is now one of the largest in-person angel groups in the country, Golden Seeds. And once I started working with founders, helping them to raise their first $1 million, I was hooked. I love the impact that these, women and men were, looking to have on society. I love the enthusiasm that they are bringing to really creating an amazing vision in the world. And I thought it was so fantastic that, wealthy, or high net worth individuals, should I say, could actually become part of this journey and this vision by making small investments.
It's really interesting that you went from investing in entrepreneurs to being one yourself. Before you started 1000 Angels, though, you took a little diversion, didn't you? And you were involved with, was it Mamatini?
Exactly.
What
yes.
was that all about?
I did. Sure. So one of the things that is really critical in the venture capital industry, and particularly if you're in the seed stage venture capital area, which is where I invest, is to actually have what's known as operating experience. So, it's not really a great place for somebody who strictly has, sort of a finance background. So my background was, undergrad degree in economics and accounting, worked in investment banking, MBA in finance. I knew how to price bonds and all this stuff, but when it came to actually, the sort of roll your sleeves up type of work that you have to do as an early stage founder, the best type of skill to have to make those investments really intelligently is experience. So you'll see that most people who do seed stage and early stage venture capital are actually former entrepreneurs themselves. They've been through the process of starting a company, a technology, or a brand from scratch, and actually hopefully getting that company to some sort of an exit event. So that's what I set out to do in about 2009 after, having worked in early stage for a few years, and I felt like I was getting a lot of attention and a lot of press because we were actually one of the very first companies that was focused on funding women-owned businesses. And even though I really loved what I was doing, I felt like I still needed that additional level of real-world experience that can only come from starting your own company. So I launched Mamatini in 2009, which was a dietary supplement health beverage for breastfeeding moms. It was a great
How'd you come
experience.
up with that?
Well, I'm a mom of 3, and so I had actually had the idea sort of cooking in my head for a while. While I was nursing my children myself, I was always sort of brewing these teas and drinking them several times a day, and they worked great. But when it's the middle of August, you're not always so in the mood to brew hot tea. And when you have a newborn baby, even the simple additional task of having to brew tea 3 times a day is, quite onerous. So I decided to create something that was ready to drink, could be just tossed in the fridge and you can drink it cold whenever you want, take it with you to the playground. And also contained a lot of additional sort of vitamins and nutrients that moms need. So the product was absolutely loved by moms. I ended up selling it after about 3 years to sort of a larger media company, which was great. And then at that point, I got to get right back into the true love of my life, which was actually investing in other people's startups. And so I've been back at that ever since 2012. And then just a few years ago, 3 years ago, I had this great idea to create and launch 1000 Angels, which really is sort of, for me, the best of both worlds, because obviously, it is a business that I'm operating and started myself, but at the same time, our business is making investments in other startups. So I feel like this is really just the ideal place for me to be.
So what are some of the most important assets that you need to have, and whether you're doing Mamatini or you're doing 1000 Angels, you now have done 2 very different businesses, but your own businesses. What kind of either skills, resources, knowledge, what would you say is core for starting these businesses?
Well, the core, so I'm evaluating, hundreds to thousands of startups every year. And definitely the core skill set that a founder needs to be successful is simply hustle, right? I mean, there are so many unexpected challenges that will come up when you're starting a company. You have to be somebody who literally is going to be able to run through walls in order to make your vision a reality and not get discouraged by all of the challenges that are going to come at you. So beyond that, I would say that the second biggest challenge that founders have in launching a new business is actually finding their core customer and figuring out the best channels by which to actually reach that customer. So, a lot of people think, oh, it's about the product or, the market size, but really the most difficult thing, to connect with to make your business work is to discover what we call your traction channels. So even if, there are customers out there who might potentially absolutely love your product, if you have a difficult time finding them, reaching them, and converting them into customers, you're going to have a difficult time growing your business. So really understanding what the best traction channels are and having the perseverance and wherewithal to test lots of different channels until you're able to hit on that right one and really connect with your ideal customer is probably the biggest challenge to most startup founders.
So you have a pretty good basis for comparison. You have been with a publicly traded company, big bank, and now running your own business. What is it that you love most about being an entrepreneur?
I would say the thing that I love most about being an entrepreneur, and really in my business, it's about working with the entrepreneurs, is just, the sense that there are no answers, right? You can't just Google the answer. You can't read it in a book. This has become even more true over the last few years. So, I did my MBA at Columbia Business School, graduated in 2004, and at that time we would very frequently, review case studies, and we would think, okay, well, we'll use this as, sort of the plan for what will happen in the future. And, those days are over. Things are changing so rapidly that you can't copy something that worked a year ago. I mean, I've, obviously work a ton with founders, but have really maintained also my relationship with a lot of the founders that are coming out of Columbia. And it's, hilarious how they will take the same customer acquisition strategy that worked for a similar company maybe 18 months ago, try to implement it now, and it's a disaster. And, particularly with digital media, social media acquisition strategies, et cetera. I mean, you have to be so creative and thinking on your feet to really figure out how to cut through all the noise that's out there to reach your customer, that, just seeing the creativity that goes into this for the founders that it really works for is just such a delight when something actually hits and then the business takes off.
Great insights. Thanks so much for the time, Erica. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
From the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, this is Business Rockstars.